Hello, welcome to another round of Championship predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. Let's have a quick recap of last weekend's action in the Championship. And I don't need to talk about myself. There's only got one perfect score, but Daniel Cody got four probably for the first time since we ever done this back in 2020. His perfect scores were on the Championship's favourite score of West Brom v Burnley. Millwall's 2-0 win against Cardiff. Rotherham Watford ended 1-1. And Blackpool somehow, luckily, got the Blackpool v Huddersfield score right, even though we all know that it should have been 1-1. My perfect score was Sheffield United's 2-0 win against Hull. So Daniel Cody wins this one by 15 points to 5 and moves level on perfect scores with 11 each. Right, let's move on to match day 9. We start with Friday night football. It's two former Premier League sides. It's Burnley versus Norwich. Burnley drew 1-1 with West Brom, and Norwich hitting their strides now. 3-0 win against Coventry.
Yeah, I've got to say first, I feel a bit for both sets of fans. Burnley's third Friday night game already, and first one at home at least. And Norwich played last TV game away at Sunderland on a Saturday lunchtime, and now away to Burnley on a Friday night. It's not fair. But in terms of the teams, both doing really well, both unbeaten in the last 6 games. Burnley maybe slightly disappointed to concede that very late goal against West Brom, but overall, West Brom had tons of chances, so I think they'll be pleased with the point if you'd offered it to them at the start. For Norwich, starting to hit their stride now, really good performance, 3-0 win against helpless Coventry we'll get to later, but the top two are looking good, and it's the two I predicted, so I'm a very happy man. I think Norwich are going to win this game. I know both sides are unbeaten in a long time, but Burnley have been the more susceptible defensively. They've had a couple of better performances recently. I'm going to go 2-1 Norwich. I wanted to go 1-0.
I'm going to go 1-1 between these two sides. Both teams want to play a little bit, but Burnley would be absolutely gutted that they couldn't hold on because it was how late there was in the day. Yeah, Norwich obviously hitting a stride. They were top until Sheffield United obviously won on Sunday. So it's starting to get a bit deja vu with Norwich being top of the Championship, and I'm not a big fan of it. I'll be brutally honest, because it just starts to get boring. And if teams like Norwich and Sheffield United run away with it, it's not going to be a good Championship season. But this is the Championship; it never works out like that. I'm going to go 1-1. Right, Saturday, Birmingham versus Swansea. Both of these teams got much needed wins, both of them with the same scoreline of 1-0. Birmingham beat Preston, so someone broke on that duck, and Swansea beat QPR.
Yeah, we got to say that Birmingham are the best team in the world going forward now because they've scored against Preston. I don't know. What have we got to do? And Swansea kept a clean sheet. I mean, look, to be fair, we've said it the last couple of weeks. They've been awful defensively. Well, they put in a solid display. I know QPR have been hit and miss at times going forward, but solid and ironically had less possession. So good wins for both, as you say. They needed it, both after 4 without a win. But I'm not sure what to go for here because this is going to be very tight. Again, I think there will be goals. There's no way both of these teams keep clean sheets in a row. So I'm going to go for 2-1 again, but this time I'm going in favour of the home side. Birmingham to nick it because Swansea never have 2 good defensive performances in a row.
No, I'm going the opposite way. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Swansea win. To be honest, the 2 wins that I probably least expected over the weekend, to be fair. Birmingham haven't been that great so far this season, and they'd be the team that actually scores against Preston and pick up a clean sheet. Swansea, as much as I criticise them, as a lot, credit's due, clean sheet, win. But I think Swansea are going to do it again. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Swans win. Right, Blackpool versus Middlesbrough. Both these teams also won by a goal to nil. Blackpool away at Huddersfield, and Middlesbrough beat Sunderland.
Yeah, I feel a little bit dirty getting the 3 points for Blackpool.
I might take him away. Forecast fault.
The EFL says it stands, but what else were they going to say? But look, it was important for them to get the win. As I said, I think it is a relegation 6-pointer come the end of the year, and it might cost me 3 points in the predictions at the end of the season. So if it does, I will be furious at that. Middlesbrough were solid against Sunderland. Again, gave up a lot of the ball, but had the moment of magic and did create the better chances overall. It's a really big game for Borough. They've only got 1 point on the road. They've started to pick up those wins at home, but haven't found a solution away. And Blackpool have just been hit and miss all season. They're either involved in 1-0s or 3-0s. So I'm going to go for it being a 1-0, but I am going to go against them this time. I think the luck will run out. Josh Bowler going obviously was a huge, huge blow on deadline day. So without that attacking threat, I think they'll struggle. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Borough win, their first away one of the season.
I'm going to go 2-0 Borough. 2-1 Borough, actually. I'm going to go 2-1. Yeah, they needed that clean sheet, Middlesbrough. Good win in a not a derby. Blackpool, you could say they were very fortunate to get 3 points, and well, the ball clearly crossed the line. But you take advantage of it, it's 3 points. So congratulations to them. But I think Middlesbrough are better. They need to start improving their away performance. You said I'm going to go for a 2-1 Middlesbrough win. Right, Bristol City versus Preston. Preston lost for the first time this season. They lost to Birmingham, and Bristol City doing well. Beat Blackburn by 3-2.
It's a really interesting game, this, because Bristol City are flying going forward. We often talk about the stats of them conceding 2 in a game throughout the last year and a half. So let's be fair. Last 6 games, they've scored 2 or more in all of them. And going forward, there are no doubts they're a quality side. They did still try their best to throw it away against Blackburn by conceding 2 goals in the final 20, but a really good attacking performance. Preston, there's no goal threat. And the defensive record was phenomenal. And it still is, only conceding 1 in 8 games. But they haven't got a threat. So this is a battle of Bristol City's attack v Preston's defence. And I think Bristol City's attack comes out on top. It's Nigel Pearson doing what we thought he might do a year or 2 later. So I'm going to go for Bristol City to win. I think Preston, lots of people have talked about them for the top 6. I think it's going to be a tougher year than that. I'm going to go 3-1 Bristol City just because... No, I'm not. I'm going to go 3-0. They're going to keep a clean sheet. I think this is going to be a tough day for Preston.
This has got a classic 1-0 Preston win.
It has, yeah.
That's why I'm going for it. 1-0 Preston. No, to be fair, Bristol City have played really well lately. Preston, they got to really attack. It's not good enough. It's poor. It's relegation battle kind of attack in front, and it's not good enough for me. But I think they're going to nick it 1-0. So you can see it. That's the championship for you. Right, Cardiff v Hull. Cardiff lost 2-0 to Millwall. Hull lost 2-0 to Sheffield United.
Yeah, it was a strange game. I mean, we're seeing a lot of this season of it coming back to teams without possession winning games. Millwall were solid against Cardiff. Cardiff, I've not been convinced by them all season. I've got to be honest. I think they're in pretty big trouble. I know Steve Morrison talks about a big overhaul to the squad, but made very little difference in game management. They're either scrapping to 0-0s, and when they try and come out, they're just conceding goals galore. Hull, there's no shame in losing Sheffield United. They've had a really tough run of games. The last 3 they've lost to West Brom, QPR, Sheffield United. That doesn't define their season. I think this sort of game does. I think this is the sort of game they could win. And I'm going to go for them to do so. I'm going to go for 2-1 because they're not good enough defensively. And they always seem to concede. But Cardiff have less of a goal threat. Only scored 2 in their last 6. I can't see them winning many at the moment.
No, nor can I. And I'm going to go for a 3-1 Cardiff. 3-1 Hull win.
That would have been a surprise.
3-1 Hull win for me. Hull are a lot better going forward if Esteban obviously gets back onto the scoring form. Obviously, it was going to be a tough game last week anyway with Sheffield United. But Cardiff, for me, I don't know what Steve Morrison's plan is. Picks on other things and trying to deflect from his own team. It's not going to work out. So I'm going to go Hull to win 3-1. CBS time, Coventry versus West Brom. Coventry lost 3-0 to Norwich, and West Brom, another draw.
Yeah, and West Brom again had the lion's share of chances against Burnley. I've said this for so many weeks, and it did happen that one day against Hull. When they click and when they start scoring goals, West Brom are going to fly because they are creating bundles of chances. They've just got to put them away. And maybe today's the day because I know Coventry traditionally have been great at home, but they weren't great against Preston. Obviously, they're miles behind in terms of games. They're now 7 points behind safety, which even with games in hand, you start to think, God, there's a gap between us there. And that's the issue. They've lost 4 games in a row in the league. They got battered in the cup before that. And they've conceded 3 goals in 3 of the last 4 games. I'm really worried about Coventry at the moment. West Brom are going to win this game for me. I'm going for 2-1.
For the first time in a long time, I'm actually going to go for the same scoreline because I can't pick another scoreline.
Yeah, don't blame you.
I think West Brom can obviously do it. They've got to obviously break the duck. I know they scored 5 the other week, but it's going to sound really stupid, but they create too many chances, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Where you get teams that get 1 or 2 chances and they score from those 2 chances. West Brom get 6, 7, 8, and then you take 1. That's my bit of worry for West Brom. It's great they're creating the chances. Nothing wrong with that, but they're not taking the chances. That's my worry. Coventry, very poor run of form, which is very surprising for them. Is, as I said, that stop at the start of the season has not helped them at all. And I think they got to play catch up. it's going to be very hard, and they're going to see that. Oh, we're still not. We're nowhere near. So they really need to pick up some form. But I don't think it's going to be in this game either. So I'm going to go same scoreline as you for the first time in a very long time, 2-1 to West Brom. Right, QPR v Huddersfield. QPR lost to Swansea, and obviously we said Huddersfield's Hawkeye problems. They lost.
Yeah, and you've got to feel a little bit because they did deserve something out of the game. They were by far the better side. They had probably 2 or 3 times the chance of Blackpool, albeit they conceded a couple of very good ones. But when you look at Danny Schofield, he's a manager under pressure, and he, in my opinion, he's not going to last that long. And you can't afford to lose points that you've legitimately earned. So you've got to feel for him because that ultimately that decision could cost him his job if they lose this weekend. So I'm a little bit worried by that. Again, a bit of a gap starting to open there, 4 points behind, and they've only got 1 game in hand, and that is at Coventry, of course. QPR were poor against Swansea. They've been very hit and miss this year, but at home, they've generally been a bit better and a bit more free-flowing. Huddersfield on the road, 3 defeats. How can you predict anything else? I'm going to go QPR to win. I think Huddersfield are open at the back, so they're going to let in goals. I'm going 3-1, the same they beat Hull by.
I'm going to go 2-0 to QPR. We talk about the Hawkeye incident, and that does play an effect. Obviously, technology, it does break sometimes, and it's very rare for Hawkeye to mess up. I think it's only been twice since we've had Hawkeye that it's failed. So yeah, unlucky by that. QPR poor recently, but I don't think QPR are going to win this game by 2-0. Right, Sheffield United v Rotherham. It's a Yorkshire derby. Sheffield United beat Hull by 2-0, and Rotherham, they drew 1-0 with Watford.
Yes, brilliant effort from Rotherham. Again, gritty performance, picking up points at home. And the first time they've picked up points, probably along with QPR away against those bigger top half sides this season, which is great to see. And for all the stick I get about Rotherham, I've got another perfect score for them. So, maybe I'm predicting them right after all. Sheffield United, though, for me, I'm sorry to say it, this is banker of the weekend. It's banker of the weekend. It just is, because Sheffield United are brilliant. They're miles clear on the goal difference. They've scored 11 goals at home with only 1 in reply. Battered Reading last time, battered Blackburn the time before, put Sunderland to the sword in a midweek game with a slightly rotated squad. I genuinely don't see who stops them and Norwich at the minute. So for me, Sheffield United win comfortably. They've let in 1 goal in 4 games, and they've scored bundles. It's going to be 3-0 Sheffield United. But Rotherham, excellent start to the season, and this game doesn't define their year at all, really.
No, I've been really impressed with Rotherham. I like Paul Warren. He's doing magnificent. He's a great start by him. Great point against Watford, considering who they've got in attack. Great point. But I'm going to go 4-1 to Sheffield United. The attacking threat for Sheffield United is just unbelievable at the moment. Right, Nathan Jones derby time. It's Stoke versus Luton Town. Stoke lost 2-1 to Reading, and Luton lost 2-1 to Wigan.
Yeah, and it's ironic you talk about the Nathan Jones bit, because it was probably one of his worst performances as Luton manager last weekend. I'm not going to go into too much detail and over-bias it, but Luton were coasting at 1-0 early in the second half. It looked the most comfortable win you were going to get all season. Wigan hadn't offered a huge threat, and Luton had a couple of good chances without being spectacular. But the tactical changes for all of the substitutions were very, very bizarre for different reasons. There was a bit of panic when it went back to 1-1. The earlier changes, changing mentality, changing type of player, which was odd. And there were like-for-like replacements available on the bench. And ultimately, it cost us not just the 2 points, but all 3 in the end. And Stoke weren't much better against Reading. They've had a stuttering start under Alex Neil, nicked a point against Swansea, fell to defeat away at Reading, who you would expect to be down there. And Alex Neil is going to come under pressure very quickly if they don't win this game, particularly with it being against Nathan Jones, who had a pretty awful time at Stoke. I do think there's going to be a reaction, but I don't think they're going to have enough to win it. And as a result, considering it was 2 of my perfect scores last week, I have to throw one in eventually. It's the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Luton first as the Luton fan. I thought we were tactically naive at 1-0. Looking at that 1-0 and you look at the stats, and you think, okay, don't need to go gung-ho. We've got the 1-0 lead. The second goal will come naturally. I don't know why we needed to go a bit gung-ho. No, all due respect to Wigan. But we wouldn't do that against Sheffield United. We shouldn't really be doing that against Wigan.
The panic after the equaliser to take off the whole of the central midfield was just bizarre.
I thought obviously it's an unfortunate own goal, but end of the day, that's Championship for you. You should be really winning the game, but you lose it. But I thought we were a bit tactical naive. Stoke, on the other hand, That first minute was an absolute disgrace. I have no idea. Jack Bonham, obviously, he's had past with goalkeeping howlers. I have no idea what he's doing. And then the fact that the defender's online to clear it and he's shanked it into the net as well. It's like, oh my. Minute into the game, you've got all your tactics prepared, and that happens within a minute. Alex Neil's got a lot to do. To be honest, he's not going to get his type of players in until January. I'm going to go for the bias because Nathan Jones and Luton do well away from home. I'm going for a 2-1 victory for the Hatters. Right, Sunderland versus Millwall. Sunderland lost 1-0 to Borough, and Millwall a much needed 2-0 victory against Cardiff.
Yeah, it was much more Millwall-like, wasn't it? The way the goals came, the defensive display, they needed it, and it was much better. And that's what we're used to from Millwall at home. The problem with these two sides is they're two sides you expect to be fantastic at home and probably struggle a little bit away this season. Sunderland were brilliant against Rotherham in Mowbray's first game. It will be a raucous atmosphere. It was a tough night at Borough, but again, as much as it's a frustrating one, that isn't a game that's going to define their first season back in the Championship. They really missed Ross Stewart, who got injured in the warm-up, and that does make the huge difference because that's their goal threat, essentially. I do think Sunderland will pick up points at home, but Millwall look good again. With the Ross Stewart doubt, I'm going to sit safe and on the fence. And as I didn't do it for 9 games or 8 games, I'm going 2 in a row. Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1.
I'm going to go Sunderland to nick it by a goal to nil. I don't want to keep using the fans will get them over the line, but I think Mowbray will tactically try and match what Millwall will have, and I think they might nick it. But they've got replacements there, Amo Diallo there, they've got Ellis Sims, so they can work around it. So I'm going to go Sunderland to nick it by a goal to nil. Right, Watford versus Reading. Speaking of ghost goals from Huddersfield and Blackpool, this is a classic one. Watford drew 1-0 with Rotherham, and Reading beat Stoke.
Yeah, I mean, last season we spoke a lot about Reading giving teams gifts. Well, they got the ultimate one, as you mentioned in the Stoke game. It was a nothing game, and they just took advantage of poor defending. And to be fair, you've got to give Paul Ince credit because he's done a really good job so far. They're on 15 points. They're probably about a third of the way to safety already, and they've only played 8 games of the season. So has to take credit for some of the teams they've beaten. Away from home, it's a very different matter, though. And we know they got that 1-0 at Millwall, but otherwise, they've really struggled on the road. And Watford's, look, they've won 3 of their 4 home games. They had that weird one against QPR, but they've not been entirely convincing. And I think it is going to take a little bit of time for some of the late changes to bed in. I do think they win this game, though. I think Reading on the road, look, they got battered by Sheffield United and Rotherham. They've struggled when they've played against an organised side. I'm going to go for Watford to win big. Not quite the 4 this time, but a comfortable 2-0 win for the hosts.
I literally just wrote 2-0 for myself because that's what I was going to go for. No, screw this. I'm going 2-0 as well. Screw it.
He's doing it all the time this weekend.
Need to get my points up. No, 2-0 Watford. They haven't really been great, convincing at home. I said they've got the victories at home, but it's not been 2-3-0. It's just been the odd goal here and there. And we lost 3-2 to QPR. But Reading's away form is pretty poor to start with. Obviously, home form was great. Lucas João back in goals, considering the form he was in during the pandemic era. He's now starting getting back to his best. I'm going to go Watford to win 2-0 as well. And the final game is Wigan versus Blackburn at the DW. Wigan beat Luton by 2-1, and Blackburn lost 3-2 to Bristol City.
Yeah, it's been a bit weird, actually. These are two sides that so far have got largely good records away from home. I mean, Wigan have drawn 3 of their 4 home games. They love a Championship's favourite scoreline, which might give you a clue as to what I'm going to go for. We'll wait and see. As I mentioned, they took advantage of Luton's poor tactical decisions in the second half at the weekend. And look, to be fair to them, they are a threat on the counter at their best. I really like Callum Lang as a footballer. I hate the fact, a bit like Anthony Gordon in the Premier League, that he falls over at any opportunity. But he's a fabulous young footballer. They were organised, they were structured, and they're going to pick up a lot of draws this season, as they have already at home. Blackburn hit a miss away from home. This time they found the goals. They've kept Ben Brereton Diaz, but they were awful at the back against Bristol City. Wigan's attack, with respect, is nowhere near as potent as Bristol City's at the moment, though. So I don't think they're going to concede more than 1. It's just whether they nick a second and win the game. Because Blackburn haven't drawn a game yet this year. And this won't be the first. 2-1 Blackburn. I regretted not going for the Championship's favourite scoreline a couple of times last week, and I'm probably going to regret it on this one as well.
Well, I'm going to nick it then. I'm going to go 1-1. Wigan, to be fair, it's a great start. It's a great start of the season for them when you think about it. 2-1 win of Luton. You take the point. You take all the advantage you can get. Didn't play particularly well, but they took advantage. They took their moments pretty well. Nice strike at the end. Blackburn feels a bit of deja vu for Blackburn. Same like last season. They get a good win and then they lose a few, and then they get another good win and they lose a few again. So it's starting to feel like deja vu. However, 1-1. Let's have a quick recap what we predicted for match day 9. Sorry, Rotherham fans, we think you're going to get battered away at Sheffield United, but we still like you. Don't worry. Other than that, convincing wins for myself for Hull and for QPR. Daniel Coe's convincing win is for Bristol City at home to Preston and Watford against Reading. And those are predictions for matchday 9 in the Championship. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comments and give us your prediction for this weekend's action. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football Free. And we'll see you next time.